Hey family, make sure you join us on the new and improved AfricanDiasporaNews.org. Now, it is our uncensored and raw truth website. We have to make sure to have our own website because on social media platforms, they do have rules, and at any time they could change a rule and shut a whole genre down. Now, that would not happen to us because on AfricanDiasporaNews.org, we can speak the truth. We don't have to hold back. So make sure you join our website today. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is by definitely demand. Many of you was asking me, you say, who is that lady with the big cowboy hat? Dr. Candice Matthews. Many of you say, reach out to her. Thank God we got her, today. So, Dr. Candice Matthews, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to even be on this show, especially when it's come to dealing with my black people. I'm all for it. All
right, so let's start off with what we initially saw. So it was on TikTok. I saw the video. I say, well, what's going on in that apartment complex? Of course, we all know Cornell. We all been knowing him for years, but we didn't know who you was. Like, who's that lady with the cowboy hat talking about first of all? Because in the comments, one person said, oh, when a black woman say first of all, it's about to go down. So, what happened after that, situation at the Sterlingshire apartments? Because I seen the rats and the roaches and the mold, and it was like, what the hell?
Okay, so what ended up happening was that when we got this information from Grizzy with the Hood News, right? And so me and Cornell decided to go out there to do a walkthrough with these families because it took a different precedence for me because I used to play in those apartments as a child. I am from Northeast Houston. I grew up in that area. And so I even knew some of these people that were in these apartments. I didn't know that they stayed in these apartments because I went to school with them. So when we were going in, walking into these units and having KN95 mask on, and you can smell the black mold through your mask, you can see the black mold in the vents. You can see it in the floor. And then what really got me was that I'm seeing children that is the same age as my children that is breathing this mess. And then when you go in and look in the oven and you see rats having a convention in the oven, yeah, that's the problem for me. Then you have people that didn't have air conditioning. None whatsoever. Then you had people who didn't, their refrigerator was not even working and had maggots in it. That was a problem for me. And then to see the roaches, the infestation, that was another problem. But then what really was the kicker for me, because of course, my day job, I'm a business owner. I own a foster adoption agency. And so, we deal with CPS and residential child care licensing all the time. And when you had the office staff, because these people reached out to us, they were being retaliated against, and they were calling CPS on these people, stating that they're living in inhumane conditions. But this was something they perpetuated. So in turn, I had to reach out to the commissioner of Texas Department of Family and Protective Services and also the Internal Affairs Division for DFPS to let them know that this is retaliation that is happening on these families, and I need you all to get with statewide intake so they'll know that this is retaliation. And I told them, I said, and in turn, I'm letting you know now, I'm going to call the hotline on that leasing office because they are perpetuating inhumane conditions for children and the elderly. And y'all bet not block it.
Well, from there, right, we know that's a lot of code violations just for the city, with the pests, right, the mold. There's laws against staying in place with mold. How would all these violations was allowed for people to stay there and collecting probably rent, maybe Section 8, whatever they're collecting? How has this been allowed in the city of Houston have never, just got involved and say, oh, no, this is not going to happen anymore?
Okay, so to kind of bring you up to speed on that. Okay, yesterday, I was invited to the actual HUD office that's here in downtown Houston. Okay. And they had the regional administrator by the name of Candice Venezuela, who was appointed by President Biden. And so I was the only community activist that was sitting at that table with all of the elected officials and also the HUD officials. So during that briefing, that was the question that I asked. So how did it get here, right? So they told us that the apartment complex, the Sterlingshire apartment complex, was actually transparent and took accountability, stating that it was an in-house issue. So what the in-house issue was, they were forging work orders. They were forging them. Mm-hmm. Then, when the last time that HUD actually inspected that specific property was in 2018. And normally what they said was that the rating that they got was 91%. So if you get anything that's 90% and above with HUD, they only will inspect you once every 3 years. Then if it's anything that's below that, then you would be inspected every year. So when they did the inspection back in 2018, then we turned around and had COVID. Mm-hmm. Then we turned around and had everything else that was happening. And so now that they are backlogged, so by us bringing this attention to HUD and also to the Southwest Housing Compliance Corporation, and that specific organization contracts with HUD. So they are the ones to make sure that the apartment complexes receive the funding. They are also the entity, like when there is issues that are happening, they try to handle it, before HUD has to get involved. So I was not happy about that, because I say, wait a minute, hold up. I say, run that back to me again. So you telling me that they forging work orders. So who going to jail for that? And so then HUD was like, the work orders that they were forging was in-house. So it wasn't anything that was related to HUD. But they did say that the owner, was very transparent about it. They took accountability for it, and then they end up coming up with an actual plan. So the plan that they have is going to be a third-party inspection company that's going to be coming in doing 100% inspections every quarter. And then they're going to get with HUD, and then they also going to have weekly calls with HUD, and they're going to have weekly calls with the Southwest Housing Compliance Corporation, so they can make sure that all these inspections are lining up together. But then this is what I said. I said, okay, so I hear that, but I'm still on the falsification of documentation part. That's what I'm on. So what are you going to do, HUD, to ensure that we don't have falsified work orders? What are we going to do about that? I said, because in my vision, what I would like to see is that it needs to be someone from HUD that needs to be there when these inspections are going on. So then nobody is not going to be able to drop the ball if we have all three entities that are there. So they took that into consideration, and they're going to be working on that. And I'm going to make sure I ride their butt so it can make sure it happens.
Exactly. It needs to be done. But another question I want to ask is the residents going to do maybe some sort of class action lawsuit against the owners?
You know what? I'm not sure, but what I did do, I provide the residents with Lone Star legal aid so they can, explore those options. And also what the apartment complex has also done, because when they went out, when HUD was out there 3 days ago with the Southwest Housing Corporation, Houston Public Works, and then also the inspections for the city of Houston, they all were out there together. And so they had, out of so many units, it was 13 units that were below living conditions. And so the apartment complex paid for these families to live in a hotel until they can get these deficiencies corrected. So I was like, okay, cool, no problem with that. Then they had another set of 13 families because they had wall issues and they had electrical issues, and they removed those people as well and put them in a hotel, until they can get those deficiencies fixed as well. So at this point, Sterlingshire Apartments is a starting point, because what's about to happen now is that this infrastructure that we use to bring awareness is now we're going to expand it to where we're going to cover all these slumlords that deals in these practices. And so the structure that we're going to do is that if families or whoever that's having a problem of that magnitude, they're going to email me with their first, last name, apartment complex, their unit number, pictures, or video. Once they send it to me, I'm going to automatically send it to Ms. Candice Venezuela, who is the regional administrator for the whole entire Southwest region for HUD. When I send that to her, they're going to be working behind the scenes, and then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to blast the apartment complex on the news to apply the pressure. And that's the structure that we're going to use. So we got to clean up our backyard first. Once we clean up our backyard, then I'm going to expand it throughout the Southwest region. And so the Southwest region is every state that's connected to Texas. And we're going to expand it to that level. But we got to clean up our backyard first before we can expand it.